Hello my friends, today we're gonna learn how to respawn randomly the goblins, enemies on our map in random places in random time. So the game is not gonna be like this, so we can survive forever, right? Right now we have just two bodies of enemies on our map and they are not able to catch us, so our records will be of surviving just too long, right? We need to make some feature into our game that will make it fun, finally. So how do we do such stuff? Think for a second, who should spawn our enemies? Should it come from our enemy scene? Well, enemies shouldn't be able to spawn themselves, right? It should be some kind of entity that will manage spawning. And we need to create, because of that, another node. And let's call it, for example, enemy spawner. You could add here manager, because to be honest, this is some kind of manager that will take care of spawning enemies. But let's say we'll make it short right now, enemy spawner. And now we need to think about timer. So something that will make our enemies spawn when the time for it happens, right? So let's create a node that takes care of things like that. So Ctrl+A and let's call it timer, and let's call it, for example, spawn timer, so we exactly know what it is responsible for. And I think that we should put it as a separate scene, so save branch as scene like this, right? And now this thing also needs a script, so let's attach a script to it, and we have a base for spawning our enemies. Now how do we spawn them? We could do it manually, think about how to invoke all this stuff, but because in this course I'm teaching you how to use AI, I will show you how to do it using Claude AI instead of doing it manually. Notice that before we are using ChatGPT, and to be honest, the context, the amount of things that we put here will make it respond with time worse and worse, okay? It means that each response will be worse because it has to analyze so much text that we've put here. So remember, when you have a very long conversation, it's probably a time to restart it. And we're not gonna restart it in GPT, but in Claude this time. And this is super important. You never ask a question without giving a context, because otherwise AI will create so much code that will just, you will not need, you will just lose time and you will need to debug lots of things. So for our problem, I did something like that. I made a screenshot of this part here, right? You can use share AX for making screenshot very fast like this. And I pasted it here. And also I attached, when you do something like that, opening file manager, you can find the path to your project and put here all GD scripts from our project, okay? And now I said from now on you will write in GD script in Godot 4. If you don't understand something from a question, so you lack context, ask me before you answer. This is very important part that many developers, when they are, playing with AI, do not add here. It's very important because sometimes AI will just guess and do some stuff, and when it does this stuff without asking you, the result will be very bad. And then I said what I put here. It's very important to not only put files, right, a context, but say what is there, at least basic things of that. You don't need to say everything because AI will analyze it, but hey, it's good to say that there is a tree of the main game scene and scripts used in game. Do some self-reflection. And now it did a self-reflection, right? And now I've also attached the script that I mentioned before, which is for head-up display. And I said what I want to do. I would like to create an enemy spawner by removing existing enemies and spawning them in random places every time randomly 0.2 to 1 second. And it created a code here, and this is very cool. Notice that cloud is like having artifacts. This is called artifact because you can click to open it and it doesn't blow your entire screen, right? You can just look on the right side here, right? And you can copy it, analyze it. In the same time, on the left side, you can read what this code on the right side do, right? And I would just copy it to here and let's see if it works. As you can see, we have got first error. It's because I didn't specify where the scenes are. And here in this place, it says, I'm assuming that enemy scene is named enemy TSCN and I didn't specify it. So I need to like give the path to it. So we can do something like that. From now on, remember that scenes are in root, in folder scenes. That should be enough. I think that it should know what I mean. And well, I can just pull it and well, let's run it, right? No, it updated this path that we had a problem with, right? And let's go back to our code and let's run our project. And as you can see, enemies are respawning, but they are also disappearing. It's because I made a mistake while asking her. Notice that I said something like that. By removing existing enemies and spawning them. Well, I was thinking about enemies that are in the scene, and it is my fault for being, not direct. I didn't mean to remove existing enemies, remove this feature. I was just thinking about removing manually enemy nodes from main node. Yeah, so, I could like stop this, start this from the start, but you can see that mistakes like that can happen and you can be just misunderstood, especially when you want the solution as fast as possible. And it happens to everyone because we all want to have everything as fast as possible, right? And as you can see now, they respawn properly until you see that they respawn also outside of that green ties. And to be honest, nothing is wrong with this script. If I had written it only on my own, this would be very similar, okay? But, what is a but here? AI should always be used to like solve one single problem at a time. And to be honest, when you are writing your own programs, you should do also it this way. Otherwise, it will be hard, especially if you are a beginner, to debug all the things that come out at once. So this is the first feature that we did, just simple spawning, right? Because now we need to somehow constrain it, right? And we need to think about how should I constrain it, like around here. We have got ground in tile maps, and I think we could use it because you want them respawn only on these tiles, right? Not on water, for example. So now I can go back here and ask, you know what? I want to constrain where enemies spawn, and I want them to spawn only on ground tile map layer that I send you screenshot of. She shouldn't apologize for that, right? Because we didn't ask for something like that. Okay, so it now did like constrain in a bit. So let's see how it works. And now we'll notice one more thing that I wanted to show you, that it will not work. But why? It's because we are using now 3.3 version of, and this is beta version of Godot. So what does it mean? It means that this ground, when I hit here change type, notice that it is tile map layer. It is different class than tile map. I talked about tile map layers in previous lectures, right? And they work a bit differently, not only on layer part, but when we go to the tile map layer, when I hit F1, I can hit the search help, you will notice that the methods, so the things that allow you to operate on tile map layer, have a bit different names now, and some meters also changed. So AI doesn't know it, and you might think now, okay, I am stuck. Or maybe I should find which method is represented by which now, right? No, you're not stuck, because you can now, what? Copy this entirely, right? You can just copy all documentation. In GPT, you could just link to documentation, but Claude, right now at least, I'm sure it will change in future, but right now you can't paste to it a link. So I'm just gonna copy it and do something like that. As you can see, this is pasted here. Time map, change into time map layer. Can you update the script? I pasted you documentation how it looks like now. So this is fun, because to be honest, even if you are experienced programmer, sometimes finding all these details and what changed, it will just take some time. Okay. Here you can, not only get a code that is gonna work in the newest version of Godot, right, without looking at that, but you can learn very fast what changed, right? So it says, okay, so I had to change time up to time up layer. Now get use cells doesn't take 0, you just don't put anything, and now I kept using map local, and well, that's all, right? Okay, so let's now go back here and let's paste it into our enemy spawner and let's see if it works properly. So as you can see, they are respawning. Now the game is getting harder. We can't, attack them back yet, but it will change. But hey, now surviving is not as easy as it used to be, right? There are more and more of them. We finally died, 15 seconds. The game is getting harder. As an exercise, you could try to, make them respawn faster with time. So after 10 seconds, they're gonna respawn 10% faster. So the game is gonna get harder and harder, for example. So it's another feature of your game. And the coolest part about that, to be honest, is that all this code here is not that easy this time. Because this time you need to, use methods that you do not use frequently as a programmer. Even with experience, believe me, and I have 20 years of experience in programming, if I had went into time up layer, okay, let's say that I am, a pro. So I go to the time up layer, and when I need to find something that would be useful for me for solving this problem, I would look at the get methods because they are responsible for returning something useful for me, right? This is like common practice to put all the things that have data into the get method. But to find this particular method that get used cells and to think about it that it stores the cells that are used by the ground map time map layer, well, it wouldn't be instant, okay? Believe me. And afterwards, I would need to also know how to change the map to local in the ground time map layer and put the random cell from this place. This is not something that is hard, when you are looking at this code. Especially remember, if you don't understand it, you can now put this part of the code right to AI, as I said in the previous lectures, and ask, can you explain this part of code as if I was 10 years old? And it will explain it perfectly, okay? But, making this part on your own is gonna be pretty hard to invent. And to be honest, probably you might use this part of code only in this particular game. Why? Because you don't need to have always enemies spawn randomly and on specific type, for example, right? So maybe if you had learned it, on your own, you will improve your brain and you will get to solve problems like that faster in future. But to be honest, tell me that, but be fair with yourself. Even if you are using the method gets used cells here, and when you are using the map to local, do I know what is in there? Why and how does it work? What kind of math is behind there? It's not like when I go here, I will see the math behind it, right? I don't see how it works. I don't care, to be honest. It works, it does the job. That's all that I care about. But somehow, when somebody looks at the solution like this, get random ground position, right? He's like, hey, I don't know what is happening here. I need to understand it. It was created by AI. I didn't, learn anything. But hey, when I, do it like that, right? So I can see on the name of it. Okay, so this function get random ground position. So if it was in timeUp layer here, right? And it was just one of many methods written by Godot creators, somehow nobody would have a problem with that, right? But when this was created by AI, it's like, hey, you haven't learned anything. That's not true. You, as a programmer, should know how to instruct your computer to do the stuff that you want it to do and get the result as fast as possible, right? And you can do it using AI or doing it manually and, doing it, longer, definitely longer, believe me. Doesn't matter how much experience in programming you have. Nobody will write this code as fast as AI in this situation, okay? And this is not a bad code. It solves the problem. You can improve the flow of your game, using some kind of patterns in programming to make all these things, more universal. But this is not something that you would do as a beginner programmer. Because there is something what is called beginner paralysis in programming. And it means that you are creating a code and you are like talking to yourself, oh no, this looks bad. I need to start from the scratch. I need to, rethink it and do it better like others do. And you do this paralysis coding like all the time and you never finish anything. That's not a way to learn something. You should make mistakes and learn from them. So after you finish, for example, a project like this, you can then see from your, feelings that, if I had did it differently, for example, I could maybe have it easier next time. So the next time you can like get into another game and have these mistakes in your mind and only solve these mistakes up front, okay? And in each project, you will just get better, but learn from mistakes that really happened. And this is the best way to learn, okay? Because this way you will at least finish something. Otherwise, you will just be stuck forever. You will never finish anything. You will just every time watch a tutorial on YouTube. You will every time ask people how to do stuff. And you will never finish it, okay? So even if you decide to do things manually without AI, just finish things and do not care about how you write stuff at start. I guarantee you that even if you spend additional 100 hours on your first project to make everything look perfect, it will not be. It won't, okay? It won't. It will be always, there will be always something that is missing. There will be always something that you need to improve. It's never like that you have instantly your best code in the world. And in my humble opinion, using AI to learn this stuff just speeds up the process of learning from your mistakes. And I will always say, it's not like you should just put this code here and go to the next feature without thinking about this code. Okay, this is not the way. You should always use AI as a teacher too. So Control A, Control C, go to the, for example, new chat, paste it, and always really do something like that. Explain the code line by line, as if I was 10 years old. And then learn new stuff and be happy that each time you are better at programming. And it's not like you are now learning programming theoretically, right? It will be like you are in the process of doing something, solving a problem, and in this situation, creating a game, which is gonna be fun for you, right? And you won't be stuck like normally. You would need to spend, for example, to learn programming language, and for example, 10 hours, right? Or 20 or 30 hours on just tutorials. This is not equal to the programming skill. And after all these tutorials, when you had not written any line of code, when you jump to something like Godot, still you will not do anything properly. You have problems anyway. So, because you have got now AI, you can speed up this process in the workflow, in the place where you really are trying to achieve something. Without AI, you would have problems understanding really every syntax, for example, every bit of code. Now you can, focus each time you create a feature on specific new thing and look at it and, make it. This is like practical example of coding, right? Not like something that, somebody says, okay, this is a function, this is just something that is gonna be invoked, it has got instructions, and all these instructions must be followed, and there is a name like this, and then there are parentheses, then the computer is gonna jump from this place to this, and all these things are gonna be executed here. Okay, this is cool to hear something like that, this works like that. But when you hear like 100 times about a function, about how variables works, arrays, how to create dictionaries, and how to get values from them, and then you get to the point where you need to use it practically, you're like, what? There was so many things, I don't have any connections to them, I don't remember anything, and you do not write anything. So AI, I think it is really making you go further really, really fast. Believe me, in my career, I have never taught myself so much stuff as in the last 1 year. This is the future of learning new stuff. And the result depends on you. Because you can use AI to just get solutions, right? And well, sometimes it's enough, but there are other ways to use AI that I show you in this lecture to make you improve with each code that AI generates, right? To make you better programmer, to make you a person that knows how to process some things. And you do not need to have, in this situation, a person like a tutor, right? You don't need a tutor this time. So you don't need to pay for it. You have somebody that you can ask questions that you were afraid to ask because you thought, hey, this might be a stupid question and the guy might laugh at me. So I won't ask it. And then you have got in your head some kind of, blank space that you don't understand, and you are then using some things in your code without even, understanding it. And then when you are not understanding it, to be honest, how does it differ from using AI to solve just a problem, right? At least when you use AI, you can then ask her also to explain all these parts. And to be honest, that's a very important topic, because if you show kids that there is AI or any person, because we are lazy, we might want to use it by instinct to just solve things and do not get any value from, these parts, right? Sometimes. But if you show people that, hey, this really can be used not only to solve the problem, but also afterwards you can learn how it was solved, then you can improve. And later, when you get experience like I did, for example, you will use it, maybe not for creating entirely everything, right? But to solve some parts that it will solve faster, really getting random ground position. This, well, if I had done it manually, after, for example, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I could feel accomplishment, for example, right? Okay, this feeling is pretty cool because I did it manually, but I would lack 20 minutes of my life this time. And for beginner, it will take lots of longer, for example, right? This is just making, AI is making our future better. We can move forward faster. And remember, as I said earlier, if this method was here, right? Let's say that it was here, like one of the methods here, somehow nobody has a problem with it, right? It's like, okay, it's here. I don't care what's there. It says just get neighbor cell. Okay, it's gonna get neighbor cell, get pattern. It does that. How it does it, I don't care. It does that. Somehow everybody is fine with it. But if this was created, the solution by AI, somehow, okay, this is just bad. You didn't learn anything from it. But using somehow this method here manually is okay, right? This is totally the same. But at least now, if I have time, if I want, I can exactly ask AI how it was done line by line and learn stuff. This is powerful, beautiful. That's why we as humankind will move forward so fast in the future. You won't believe what will happen in 5-10 years because of that. We have just new calculator. We have new way of solving things, but with using what? We use just words here, right? It's not like I had to follow some kind of pattern to say to this AI, some kind of program, so it understands me. I can use any language here. I can use my language, Polish one, or you can use your languages if you are from another country. And you don't need to, be fluent in this even language. You don't need to be always precise. You don't need to be like, a person who needs to write firstly this, then this, then this. No, AI understands your simple language, and you don't need to follow rules inside of it. It's good to provide context and do some stuff in some kind of order to get better results, okay? Like I said in previous lectures, but this is powerful because this is like an advanced calculator that can solve things very fast, right? And you don't need to learn something like how to use it with some kind of syntax, right? You don't need to, like in calculator, know where to click, right? Because advanced calculators are not simple, right? They are not like, when I get to the calculator, I think here, as you can see, this is like a standard calculator, right? But there are advanced calculators, right? So you need to understand all these parts, for example, here, right? So this is super powerful, helpful, and I hope you can see after this lecture how crazy time we live in and how far we'll go if we open our mind and to this amazing tool. Have a good day, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.